We all know how anime trails can get, right? Depending on when one of the 9 games released, the series has encompassed many of the common tropes of the anime and manga of that time period. Cold Steel 3 is when it really gets into the whole straight-up anime in my video game vibe, which is what makes it a ton of fun for many of us anime fans. So with that, allow me to shill some anime recommendations to all of you who have helped me reach 1K subscribers a couple months ago now. Yeah, sorry for the long wait, but now this video is finally here. My way of saying thanks to all of you. Hopefully this is coming at a great time too, since so many of you are on break for the holidays now and have some free time for once. So I'm recommending each of these following 5 shows, all for different reasons. As we all know, there are so many aspects to the Trail series that makes it so enjoyable. And of course, it doesn't hurt to say that certain aspects will speak a lot more to you, depending on what your personal taste or preference is. And so, certain anime will be more of a fit for you than others. With that all said, we can start with the first recommendation, and that is the episodic anime Mushishi. This recommendation is for all of you who enjoy the minor NPCs and their lives, which are scattered all across the different cities and towns of Zemuria. The vast majority of these interactions are brief and very fleeting, in the sense that you'll talk to these individuals and families a couple times during an entire game or arc, but you'll never know their full life story. Even so, their lives are all incredibly relatable and easily speak to the core of what are basically the happiest and toughest times in life. In other words, the feelings and experiences that these people go through are pretty damn universal. As I said earlier, this show is episodic, meaning that the vast majority of characters only appear in their respective one episode that occasionally drags into 2. There are only a couple people that make more than one appearance throughout the series. The only thing that ties everything together is the traveling Mushishi, Ginko. Now, the shi suffix can mean master, pointing to the fact that Ginko is very knowledgeable when it comes to these supernatural entities known as mushi. And what are mushi? Mushi means bug in Japanese, but in this show's universe, they refer to the basic supernatural life forms that exist on Earth. They are incredibly enigmatic and can mimic a wide variety of things from the natural world, such as plants, diseases, and even phenomena like rainbows. Each episode follows Ginko on his travels from village to village as he studies mushi and the way they affect the lives of so many. Just like the NPC stories in Trails, sometimes the episodes end happily, some end on a more sorrowful note, while others are just plain bittersweet. A certain side quest in CS3 during Chapter 4's free day immediately comes to mind. Now, one thing that's different about Mushishi though, is that the NPC's contribution to overall world building is nowhere near the Trails series accomplishment. But I can say that each Mushi and their respective episode all feels unique and different from each other across 3 main seasons and a couple OVAs. The manga is also a great read if you prefer that medium. On another note, the OST of this show makes incredible use of traditional Japanese instruments, and the entire art direction and aesthetic is just really breathtaking, especially if you enjoy nature/natural settings. Okay, I'll admit that I can't help but shill my favorite anime of all time. It's definitely not for everyone, but if you are the kind of person who really likes the NPC stories / almost slice of life-ish aspect of Trails, I really think you should give Mushishi a shot. Alright, we'll now move on to recommendation number 2, Made in Abyss. This one is for all of you who enjoy the mystery surrounding the artifacts and ancient civilization of Zemuria. There's an added bonus for everyone who loves Estelle, and let's face it, who doesn't like Bestel, or strong and adventurous female protagonists in general. Riko serves as the excellent main character of this work, though I'll say ahead of time that she and her fellow male protag are both quite young, aka Riko is only 12 years old when the story begins. But please don't let that stop you from trying this out. Their ages don't detract from the story. In fact, some parts hit much harder than they would otherwise because they are both so young. Anyway, the setting focuses primarily on the Abyss, a dangerous and gaping chasm that stretches into the deepest depths of the earth. What draws people to it are the mysteries surrounding the creatures and ancient relics that are capable of otherworldly feats. The brave individuals who venture down into the abyss are known as divers and are heralded by those who remain on the surface. Sounds sorta familiar, right? I've watched a buddy of mine play some of Nayuta no Kiseki, and though I haven't played it myself yet, I feel like those who enjoyed the premise of this game may especially enjoy Made in Abyss. And we all know that even though Kondo refrains from calling Nayuta canon, there's a lot of speculation that it eventually will tie into the main Trails series in the end, even if not directly. And actually, anyone who just loves the feeling of exploring unknown dungeons and areas in open-world games, especially one set in the medieval fantasy-esque period, will get a kick out of this anime. The scenic vistas and creatures have breathtaking designs and have been beautifully animated by Studio Kinema Citrus. Right now, there's only one season of the show out, with a sequel movie set to air less than a month away in January of 2020. Without spoiling anything, let me just say that the coming arc is a fan favorite of the manga readers. It also is expected to do well in this movie format as opposed to the pacing of a weekly TV series, so this is your chance to catch up. Which really shouldn't be too hard, since the first season is a short and sweet 12 episodes. This next recommendation is one of the most influential manga turned anime series to exist in Japan, and that's Jojo's Bizarre Adventure. Familiar with the Persona games? They were highly inspired by Jojos. Multiple anime and manga series have referenced events from Jojos, and Jojo poses are now a cultural icon. You've most likely seen the memes somewhere around the internet, even if you're unfamiliar with the name of this series. Now, why am I recommending this kind of series to a Trails fan? Well, I believe this show will pique the interest of all of you who appreciate when characters of previous arcs return for newer ones. Just some examples include Ren, Estelle, and Joshua returning in Zero, or Tita, Agate, Tio, and Randy showing up in Cold Steel 3. Now, in Jojo's case, the story follows the Joestar family and its generational battle with Dio and his followers. And just like Trails, the most optimal and best way to experience Jojo's is to start with part 1 and to not skip parts. The context from previous parts is vital if you want the most and best feels out of the series. There are time skips between parts, and each one features a different crew from the last, barring some returning characters. Now, don't go expecting Jojos to reach the peak level of character development when it comes to returning characters, but as a shorter series with multiple time skips, it does a pretty damn good job of showcasing these people's growth. Jojo's is also incredibly campy, or aka intentionally over-exaggerated. There are also quite a few moments that you better avoid thinking too hard about. I mean, it's called Jojo's Bizarre Adventure for a reason. Trails definitely has its fair share of over-the-top, tropey anime moments, such as the "you haven't seen my true power yet" scenes, or some incredibly convenient plot threads that don't really hold up if we try to logically analyze them. Basically, if the thrilling shit hits the fan moments in Kiseki are your speed, I'm quite sure you'll enjoy Jojo's. As of now, 5 of the parts have been adapted to anime by David Productions. They've done an excellent job when it comes to capturing the unique visuals and aesthetics that make Jojo's Jojo's. I'll say that Part 3, Stardust Crusaders, is the only anime part to have some pacing issues due to DP taking 2 episodes to cover what could fit in one. Part 1 might seem a bit dated or slow to those of you who are avid anime fans already, but it's really not that long in the grand scheme of things and will add so much more meaning to the later parts. Kinda like how Sky FC is viewed by the fandom, right? Overall, I highly recommend this anime to anyone who's interested in Japanese pop culture and a style that has inspired so many other works in the country. Following that Jojo's recommendation is something with much less action and much more deliberate contemplation, and that's The Legend of the Galactic Heroes. Look at how it shares its own title with Kiseki. It just adds Galactic to it. Hence, Eiyu Densetsu becomes Ginga Eiyu Densetsu. This series is for all my fellow lovers of the politics in play throughout Zemuria, both those that are internal to a single country and the international relationships between countries around the continent. The main story is incredibly realistic and boasts a fantastic script. I mean, this OVA series is a loving adaptation of a sci-fi novel series from the 80s. The 110 original OVAs initially released in 4 installments of direct home video to the most supportive fans. In brief words, the story follows the end of a 150-year-long stalemate between the Galactic Empire and the Free Planets Alliance due to a new generation of leaders, the 2 most prominent being Reinhard von Lohengram of the Empire and Yang Wenli of the Alliance. Reinhard and Yang are some of the most well-written and developed characters I've encountered across any medium, so if you love the strong character building of Trails, you'll love this aspect of LOGH. On a broader level, this series explores the benefits and difficulties surrounding different types of government, a representative democracy on the FPA's side, which basically mirrors cross-spell state in Trails, for instance, and an autocratic monarchy in the Galactic Empire, which slowly sees reforms as the series progresses. Sounds a bit like Erebonia, no? However, I'll admit the lack of strong female characterization is a shortcoming of this series. Whether it's due to it being a product of its time, or just truly not being the focus of the original author, don't expect strong character focus on the women in LOGH. The development of the rest of the cast more than makes up for it, though. Plus, I'll make up for it as well, since my final anime recommendation will include a strong female protagonist. As for the original OVA's art, it can definitely be seen as outdated. I've heard from longtime fans that the modern 2018 anime is a viable option to start the series with. I've only watched a few episodes of this myself, but I can say that it mostly stays true to the original spirit so far. I actually see it in the same light as I do the Cold Steel arc, which has gone and drawn a ton of new fans into Trails. Most of these fans eventually go try out the Sky and Crossbell games afterwards, right? So it doesn't surprise me that the 2018 LOGH adaptation has captured more of a modern audience. Though I hope this will eventually culminate into a desire to continue with the original OVAs. The additional attention given to the characterization and world building makes the original just too good to pass up. Now let's move on to the final rec, and that's Seirei no Moribito. And props to any of you who actually recognize the name of this obscure anime. I'm recommending this one on the basis that Yonsa Balsa, one of the main protagonists, if not the main one, is an excellent example of a strong female lead. She's truly one of the best I've come across in any medium, and we know how much we love our strong female characters in the Trails fandom. Seirei no Moribito started off as a light novel, which gained massive popularity with adults in Japan, thus prompting a manga adaptation and an anime, aka this show. It even saw the birth of a radio drama and the release of 2 novels in the West. The story is handled in an incredibly mature manner, as Balsa herself is a grown woman, likely in her early 30s by the time the story begins. The character development of the small main cast is just really well done in general. I think those of you who especially took a liking to the Sky arc will appreciate this show, as it has a setting and cast that resembles what I'd call the older generation of JRPGs. Anime and video games have become quite saturated with stories set in high school, so this show serves as a nice breather from all of that. Sound like your thing? Well, allow me to share a little blurb about Moribito's premise. The show begins as the Shin-Yogo Empire is teetering right on the edge of a cataclysmic drought. The Star Readers, aka religious figures, discover that according to the ancient prophecies, the youngest prince, Prince Chugum, will be the next vessel to the ancient water demon. After saving the young prince from a thinly veiled assassination attempt, the spear-wielding mercenary Balsa is entrusted with protecting him from his hunters by Shagum's mother. Balsa accepts due to a noble vow she swore long ago, and what follows is a journey across the empire, which finally culminates into an incredibly satisfying conclusion. Honestly, this anime has those enticing bits of Cold Steel's mystery surrounding the happenings of the past, while having the pacing and setting that's more akin to the early Liberal arc. It does slow down a little bit for a couple episodes right in the middle, but it quickly begins picking up as the story approaches its riveting climax and conclusion. Just as a heads up though, I will say that if you are looking for a romance like Estelle and Joshua's, you'll really find none of that here. But still, I hope that you Sky Trilogy lovers in particular will give this anime a chance. And that's it, guys. Those are 5 anime recommendations I wanted to shill to all my fellow Trails fans. I hope that out of those 5, at least one of them sounded interesting to you. And once again, thank you so much for helping me get to 1K plus subs, which was my goal this year. You actually helped me reach it in less time than I was hoping for. So thank you, thank you. And, well, until I see you in the next video, take care. See ya!